the ongoing adventures of President Plane Crash, aka President the Hamburglar, aka President Chomo, aka President Donald J. Trump. So I had wanted to cover, and again, I have to provide you another content slash trigger warning. We're going to be talking about like aviation disasters, current ones. And so given the time of year, I understand if you do not want to hear this because you might be traveling, and if you're in the United States of America or if you live really far from your family, it is likely you will not be able to go anywhere via train. If you want to take to the roads, you know, your life is in your own hand, I suppose, there too. But yeah, so content warning about the things that I'm about to show you. Do not send me an email saying that I ruined your holiday. Don't go, Brandon, I missed Thanksgiving because of you and Donald Trump. You hit me with the emotional warfare, the psychological warfare. Donald Trump hit me with the infrastructural, warfare in the form of like the shutdown. Having said all that, do you guys want to see a plane crash? This is crazy. We were just talking about that near miss that occurred between those two planes. I think on the East Coast. I don't know if it was Logan International Airport in Boston, but it was like just a few days ago. Another two planes almost like collided while one was landing on the tarmac of a commercial airport. And so you may have seen this news yesterday, but a UPS cargo plane crashed in Louisville. Yeah, I don't know if you yet. This is a clip from NBC News from 11 hours ago. At least 12 dead from UPS cargo plane crash in Louisville. Whenever I say Louisville, I think of Nelly. But yeah, so let's again. I don't know how you feel about plane crashes. I don't want to say I don't mind them. I don't want to say I don't mind plane crashes. I've seen Final Destination a bunch of times, but considering how they've increased under Donald J. Trump, you'd be forgiven for thinking that his favorite movies crash. And the best thing about that reference is that it works no matter which movie crash you think I'm referring to. Although one works better than the other, but I'll leave it to you to figure out which one.
Tonight, NTSB investigators are looking closely at the tremendous amounts of video and photographic evidence of the final moments of UPS Flight 2976.
Believed to be a plane crash, huge fire and smoke.
This video already proving to be critical evidence, appearing to show the plane's left wing or engine already on fire as the MD-11 barreled down the runway on its takeoff roll. Investigators say the cargo jet, fully loaded with fuel, managed to clear the fence at the end of the runway, but quickly banked to the right and slammed to the ground, hitting several businesses, including an auto parts company with employees and customers inside.
There was literally fire and flames around them, and they got out safely. We had other employees that escaped out through back windows.
The massive explosion sent flames, debris, and giant clouds of black smoke into the air. The debris field spread over half a mile.
What this scene is
Joe Biden did that.
Violent. Where the plane hit, at best, is destroyed. What you see are mangled remnants of what was in its path.
Investigators have already recovered the plane's left engine found between two runways. Airport CCTV captured the moment that engine came off the wing. NTSB board member Todd Inman.
It gives us a much better picture of what was happening before you start to see the fire and before the detachment actually occurs.
Investigators have also found the plane's cockpit voice and flight data recorders, the black boxes, in the smoldering wreckage.
While the fire may have been intense, it is built to withstand that.
Tonight, the death toll stands at 12, including a child on the ground.
We've seen burns. We've seen blast injuries from the explosion itself.
The 3 pilots on board did not survive. Tonight, the airport is partially open as the NTSB scours the field for evidence.
Such a horrific accident. Let's pick up right there. Tom joins us live from the Louisville airport, which is UPS's largest hub in North America. Tom, are operations there still affected tonight?
Yeah, UPS says it actually suspended its package delivery operations this morning. It told some shifts not to even come to work. That means that some shipments, for example, medications, business deliveries, online shopping, those shipments likely are probably going to be delayed. On a typical day, they handle 2 million packages right here at the UPS World Port, Tom.
Tom Costello for us tonight. Tom, thank you. We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories.
That's something else. That is really something else. But it's not just that crash, right? There's just been, obviously, I think, and people will still say it's the safest time to fly. So I'm not trying to imply that it's not, but I mean, historically, maybe not literally right now. Don't put that on me. But historically, we still live in the safest time to fly that human beings have ever lived within, I suppose. Maybe? Sure. Anyway, but it's not just that crash. Like, there's been, as a result of the shutdown, and then, as we know, the various staffing issues at the FAA that go back 40, 50 years, all the way to, like, Jimmy Carter. There's just been, I think, mass chaos. There's been mass chaos in the airports of the United States, just domestic, foreign flights, crashes, delays. So I guess we should start with the most recent news in that, well, besides the UPS plane crash, the most recent news in that that information category, which is the announcement from the Department of Transportation that travel will be reduced by 10%. So hold on. Let's just pull this up. Yeah, here we go. Because of the shutdown, the FAA will reduce air traffic by Friday. So this is a CNN clip that they just posted an hour ago, talking about how I think 10% of air traffic at 40 of America's busiest airports will be reduced because of the shutdown. Now, I'm not a big air traffic nerd, but if you ask me, considering everything that we've seen so far and what people have been saying about staffing shortages and flight over the increased traffic of incredibly busy runways in America, probably airports could have stood to have that happen without the shutdown. But I mean, probably a bad time of year to start.
Millions of Americans are on the verge of a potential travel nightmare as the longest government shutdown in U.S. history stretched into day 37. Now, unless this standoff ends, the FAA is planning to slash air traffic across the country, cutting thousands of flights per day. That begins tomorrow. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said flight capacity will be reduced by 10% at 40 major airports. It is not clear which airports would be impacted, though we're expecting a list to come out today. Air traffic controllers are working without pay during this shutdown in incredibly stressful jobs, and staffing shortages have already been snarling flights for weeks now. CNN's
That's great. There's this mentality in America that you see at every level to justify not providing the basic necessities for people, that kind of insist that the things that go on in your life outside of your school, for example, outside of your education, outside of your job, are things that you should be able to basically silo off in your brain and have not impact your daily productivity, right? When we talk about reform for education, for example, we stick to school reform oftentimes. We stick to how we can put more iPads in schools, and a lot less of that time is spent talking about how kids can't learn if they're coming to school from a community that has had its public services, defunded, and therefore a lot of the public space is unusable, and there's a lot less utilities and services for them to be taking advantage of in order to better their lives outside of the school building. It makes it harder to learn, right? If you live in housing insecurity, if you live in food insecurity, we kind of take it for granted, okay, but people should be able to just flip a switch in their head, Severance style, and just get over it. And I can't think of a more dangerous way of proving that that's not the case than not paying air traffic controllers who are already incredibly stressed by the job itself and are now going to have to be stressed about okay, well, can I afford my rent? Do you really want the person who's in charge of determining whether or not your plane crashes, essentially, who's not the pilot? to be worrying about like if they can like afford food for their daughter that night, if they can like pay their rent, if they're going to have to take another shift of like DoorDash deliveries and then like just like not get any sleep. That's like it's wild. It's wild. But that's the public-private divide that people are taught is so meaningful in a capitalist economy.
Aviation correspondent Pete Montine is joining us now. I began this show with my own glitch in my head, and I'm not nearly as stressed out as these air traffic controllers. How bad could this get when you're talking about a 10% reduction in workforce
but it could not be.
Over 40 major airports?
We're talking an impact on tens of millions of travelers here who received emails about this from airlines overnight. This is the most direct consequence, Sarah, of the government shutdown on air travel, and airlines were really blindsided by this announcement. I'm told carriers were given less than an hour's notice that the FAA would move to cut flight capacity nationwide by tomorrow morning. Here is the reasoning from the Trump administration. Air traffic controllers are about to get a second $0 paycheck, and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says that stress in the national airspace system is making it unsafe. Here's what's happening. If there is no deal to reopen the federal government by Friday, the FAA will cut airline traffic by 10% at 40 of the country's busiest airports.
Is that
FAA
enough?
source tells me the list includes what are known as the core 30 airports. Those are the 30 busiest, most operationally significant airports in the United States. FAA Administrator Brian Bedford says the cuts are based on pilot safety reports, not input from the controllers these cuts are supposed to protect. And right now, air traffic controllers, rank and file controllers are telling me there's a lot of confusion about how this will be implemented. In making this announcement,
that's great. That's another thing that like air traffic controllers need to be thinking about. Like they weren't confused enough. That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. I love when my air traffic controller is confused.
Said about his rationale.
Confused and stressed. That's the two. Those are the two best qualities to have in an air traffic controller. Confused and stressed.
Additional pressure that's building in the system, and again, our priority is to make sure that you're safe. And so we're going to talk about additional measures that we are going to take that's going to reduce the risk profile in the national airspace.
You can bet that airlines are reacting to this in a big way. And in a company-wide memo, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby says these cuts will be significant and significantly disrupt air travel at major hubs, and is warning that passengers should prepare for delays and cancellations starting on Friday. United says it is, quote, actively coordinating schedules and is urging the government to reach a deal immediately. Meanwhile, Frontier Airlines CEO Barry Biffle called the plan unsustainable, saying, quote, you cannot run the national airspace like this. This is not how a modern aviation system functions. He even went as far to say that you should book a backup ticket on a separate airline. That just underscores how unprecedented this move is.
Would you refund me for that ticket?
45,000 flights on an average day. A 10% cut would mean 4,500 flights removed daily, which is worse than the worst cancellation day of the last year.
Great for the environment, though. Not good enough, but great for the environment, for sure.
Moved daily, which is worse than the worst cancellation day of the last year. Every day until the shutdown ends. It's huge. The political reality here is also huge. Never in modern aviation history has U.S. airspace capacity been reduced for the political fight. And the pressure is now on Congress, and the clock is very much ticking.
Yeah, I love the airline CEO's solution of buy more tickets. You guys to solve this problem should get more subscriptions to the Discourse. I don't know. I feel like somehow if you just get more subscriptions to the Discourse, that it will solve a lot of these problems.
And the pressure is now on Congress.
I can't promise you that, but it just feels right.
And the clock is very much ticking toward Friday morning. Sarah.
Yeah, it is very much on Congress, but it is on the administration as well, as people become more and more
obviously
frustrated.
It's his fault.
Looking at pictures, I know you've seen them from Houston, where there are insane lines have been in place for a couple of days now. There is a lot to unpack here, but the biggest thing that you said is travelers need to...
Well, no, there's not a lot to unpack because no one can travel anymore. So, like, no one has any luggage. So there's less to unpack. There's 10% less. There's going to be 10% less to unpack.
There is a lot to unpack here, but the biggest thing that you said is travelers need to beware. This is going to have a major impact. Pete Montine, it is always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So there have been more than 400 staffing shortages reported at FAA.
Thank you, a failure fiend for the 5 gifted memberships.
facilities since the start of the shutdown on October 1st. TSA workers are also feeling the strain. CNN spoke with one woman who had to quit her job last week as the pressure of working without pay took its toll.
I see you changed your name from Failure Fiend to Shrimp Handstand Walker. So thank you, Shrimp Handstand Walker, for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you.
I tried to push through for as long as I could, but my lease is literally...
Roxy Knightley. She sounds like a lady private eye from like a 90s like kind of like neo-noir show, which is not an insult. It's a really cool name. Like Roxy Knightley, but like, yeah, she sounds like a hero. That's cool. I'm sorry they lost you at the TSA. Dimpira, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships.
About to end within the next 2 weeks. Landlords require 2 pay stubs. I do not have 2 recent pay stubs. I kind of feel a little bit lost, to be honest with you, because
welcome to Trump's America.
You know, intend to continue working as a transportation security officer.
Welcome to Trump's America. Stock market down, planes down, age of consent down. Those are like promises made, promises promises kept by the Trump administration. Kathy Thomas, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Oh my gosh, you're really showering me with love today.
Working as a transportation security officer here in Chicago for as long as I could, but obviously all of this has happened and everything is starting to look drastically different.
Joining me now in the group chat, Zach Wolf, CNN senior politics writer and the author of the What Matters newsletter, Mike Dubke, former Trump White House communications director, and Megan Hayes, former Biden White House director.
Okay, I don't want to. This is why we don't watch CNN, because I don't want to hear their analysis. It's not usually very good. Let's see what else is going on when it comes to this shutdown, or not shutdown, this adjustment, we shall say, of the flight schedule, the flight traffic in the United States right before Thanksgiving. Like, this is the kind of stuff that people are going to remember. Well, you can't really say about Americans' memories, but you imagine this will be part of the thought cabinet that people bring into the voting booth in the midterms. And certainly it was part of well, not this particular news because it didn't happen yet, but certainly it is part of the thought cabinet. At least the bones of this are part of the thought cabinet that people brought into like the 2025 off-year elections. I wonder if they delayed this news so that they didn't have to suffer the consequences of like what this would, cause people to do at the voting booth in the election that happened yesterday. So they just held off on announcing this. Failure Fiend, thank you for the $2 super chat. You said Discourse subs would help the planes. Well, yeah, but I hope you know I was just joking. I know my sense of humor can be so wry that sometimes it's hard to tell fact from fiction on top of the just general difficulty people have with it. But this is not like a Tinkerbell situation. Like if you clap your hands for me, like the planes aren't going to stay up. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that for free. Wow. Yeah. How about this one? This is from, I think, Face Nation. No, CBS News.
Welcome back to the Takeout. Welcome to the conversation.
It's a segment entitled "What Travelers Should Expect from Potential Flight Cuts." Yeah, I'm actually curious. Like, what can we expect? Because they say 10% of flights are going to be cut, but like considering how our airlines work, I imagine that, and again, along with the various other difficulties being caused by the shutdown, that's going to lead to a lot more than like 10%. It's going to lead to a disproportional amount of disruption.
Welcome back to the Takeout. Welcome to the Conversation Corner. We are following developing news in the government shutdown tonight. Late today, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced the United States will cut the number of flights leaving from as many as 40 airports as the government grapples with shortages of air traffic controllers and TSA personnel. These reductions will be implemented Friday if the government shutdown continues. Here with me for the latest on this and the UPS plane crash in Louisville, Robert Zumwalt. He is our transportation safety expert and analyst and former chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. Robert, it's always good to see you. What do you make of what the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced just this afternoon about these cutbacks?
Well, believe it or not, Major, this is the way the system is supposed to work. When we have controller staffing issues or when there's weather, this is the way that the FAA manages their risk. They start reducing the number of airplanes in and out of certain airports. So this is not unprecedented. I was an airline pilot back in 1981 when the air traffic controllers went on strike and subsequently got fired. And that's exactly what had to happen.
Yeah, and this whole issue, or at least not this whole issue. Obviously, this is a unique Trump administration beast. But a lot of the issues that we have with like air travel and like staffing issues with the flight safety people go back to like the late 70s and early 80s, and how we never recovered. That industry, like because of the way in which organized labor was cracked down on, that industry never recovered, and we are all less safe as a result of it. And it's just one way in which like the imperative to crack down on organized labor just degrades all of our services and all of our lives. Like we are all so much less safe due to the way Reagan treated the air traffic controllers. And it's just never recovered.
Subsequently got fired, and that's exactly what had to happen back in those days.
If this goes into effect on Friday, how rapidly will the traveling public notice?
Well, I don't know. I'm flying on Friday, so I hope it doesn't.
Text me to let me know.
Yeah.
But
you said what had to happen, so bon chance.
Anticipate hearing this news is there's a little bit more uncertainty and a higher probability of delays and possibly even cancellations.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the major
people love that
right there. Check with your airline.
People love that. Traveling is always so low stress. Traveling is always so low stress that you can tell people will just take this like on the chin. Who cares? Who cares if you get to the airport like 3 hours ahead of time like you're supposed to? And then they just cancel your flight and tell you got to go home and maybe come back tomorrow. Who cares? Who cares? Like you get a lot of days off from work, right? Like you get a lot of days off from work paid. Like you don't have to worry about that.
See what's going on.
What have you deduced so far, Robert? And what is the NTSB beginning its work looking for in Louisville?
Well, the very good news is that the NTSB has identified the flight recorders, so that's very good news. We certainly hope that they will have usable data. We know for a fact, I mean, it's been confirmed that the engine did depart the wing.
It fell off the wing?
It fell off the wing.
Is that a maintenance issue?
Well, the NTSB is certainly going to look into that. I mean, it doesn't just happen unless there's some sort of an issue. Maybe there was metal fatigue that might have
it doesn't just happen.
Transpired over
many
years. But the NTSB, having worked with those professionals for 15 years, I'm confident they'll do a very good job and get to the bottom of this.
Robert, I'd like your appraisal of something I've heard discussed in the aftermath of this and others recently. There's so many people now who have cell phones and video evidence of things as they're happening. Is that a tool that the NTSB uses that it simply did not have before to understand what actually went on?
Absolutely. And I was a part of several investigations.
Video evidence,
cell phone video was extremely helpful to determining what.
Okay. I'm seeing in the chat that Nancy Pelosi is retiring. I wasn't aware that that was news, honestly. I thought we already knew that she was retiring when she stepped down as the Speaker of the House or whatever, the leader of the Democrats in the House. And when I thought we knew she was retiring when she didn't fight the insider trading bill, like the ban on Congress people trading on insider information. But yeah, we can look into that after we're done, I guess, understanding more about the way in which our air traffic system in America is degrading so rapidly before our eyes. Yeah, what was this one about? Hold on. This one, I think from Seattle, a local news affiliate, Como News. Air traffic controllers at SeaTac ask travelers for support. I wanted to watch this one because I had no idea what this could possibly be about.
Tonight, we're wrapping up the 4th week of the federal government shutdown, and there is no end in sight. Today marks the first day air traffic controllers are going without a paycheck, all while being required to work 6 days a week. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Molly Shen.
And I'm Preston Phillips. This is putting a strain on the already challenging situation at airports across the country. Come on, Stella Sun live this evening at SeaTac International Airport, where the message air traffic controllers are telling travelers. Stella?
Air traffic controllers and other FAA workers have been here on the sky bridges at SeaTac all day. In fact, some of them are right behind me. They are handing out pamphlets like this that say, end the government shutdown immediately. Their goal, asking the public to put pressure on law.
Yeah, SeaTac is Seattle-Tacoma Airport.
Lawmakers to make a deal so that they can get paid so they can feed their families and to pay off rent.
Support air traffic controllers?
At SeaTac Airport,
support air traffic controllers?
FAA employees who are normally inside the air traffic controller tower,
this is just information,
are passing out pamphlets on 3 sky bridges.
I know you'll support us.
The difficulty of not getting paid is we're just like everybody else in the U.S. Most of us live paycheck to paycheck.
Mark Roush has been furloughed for 28 days. He's an aviation specialist at SeaTac Airport and the regional VP for the National Air Traffic Controllers Association.
The first day that we're receiving a $0 paycheck, it's disheartening.
Roush and other SeaTac employees paid by the FAA are now hoping travelers can help them out.
We are just trying to help ask the public to reach out and contact their representatives in Congress in Washington, D.C. and say, end the shutdown.
Travelers showing support.
My brother-in-law was an air traffic controller for a long time, so anything we can do to support them.
Even the Port of Seattle commissioner coming to the airport to hand out sandwiches to those impacted by the government shutdown.
Thank you.
The reality is that working their shifts while knowing that their family isn't going to have, potentially rent to pay, food on their table, tuition, makes the job harder to do. So even if they're showing up for work,
it's super dangerous.
100% there because they're concerned about their own livelihood.
FAA employees say flying is as safe as it's ever been. Even still,
anytime that you do a shutdown, it introduces a distraction to the system, a distraction to safety.
Love that.
U.S. transfer.
I love when my air traffic controllers are distracted. So I got to make my call real quick. I'm just going to put on some music, and then I'll just be right back. It shouldn't take too long. But I know I always say that, so you'll have to forgive me if it's not true, but it shouldn't take more than like 15 minutes. But I'll be back.